hiking on their own or whatever, there's no social preference, that they have a different preference on it. There is
Context-dependent
literature
preferences.
now on endogenous preferences. And simply a question, I thought John's point was an excellent one.
Yeah, no, I mean, this goes back 30 years of essentially non-market valuation people assuming everybody's rational and using models. And this was sorry, this is a bad joke. It was like taking H-bomb econometrics and dropping them on trailer park data, right? We assumed that everybody was incredibly rational, and we were using these econometrics that assumed everybody had context-independent preferences, and everybody was operating just like we model in the utility function, and any kind of error was just, non-systematic and swept away. And so, from that into the emerging essentially from non-market valuation, we didn't call it behavioral economics, we called it starting point bias, and we called it interviewer bias, and we called it payment card bias, and all the biases we had that were documented in all the literature that was sitting up here. So we started describing these, and we attributed those biases to lack of real economic commitment in a lot of these cases, not due to context-dependent preferences. Absolutely, it was due to some kind of systematic measurement error, not due to the fact that preferences were fungible based on the context, because our micro theory wasn't handling it. So now we're going to introduce endogenous preferences in it, and then my question always comes into endogenous preferences is, where do we draw the line? Do we got one emotion that's going to affect my preferences, or do we have the whole vector of 40, I think is the last count? Or let's just simplify it to the 7 deadly sins and say one of those things is driving my preferences. And now, yeah, absolutely we can. We're just going to have a bigger utility function. It's just like the guys in Jaws. We need a bigger boat. Right? Because now, once I've opened the door to, the emotions from Maine, I've got to figure out how to open them up from Chile. And now I have to understand culture, not just emotions, and now we have moved into social psychology. And if we only had another 40 years, right? I mean, somebody else can do this, but I think it's all valid, and I think what matters to me is that somehow, all this work we've talked about today is attempting to, it's kind of whack-a-mole a little bit, in that we get it and it pops up over here. But hopefully with this notion that you can have extrinsic incentives and you can have intrinsic incentives, maybe we'll just lump them together like we do for total use value. We don't worry about non-use versus use values anymore. We just lump them together as value. Perhaps we will be able to figure out a way to lump together the intrinsic incentives and the intrinsic incentives to come up with some degrees of freedom that better explain what people do. So yeah, I think it does matter. That was a really long answer to your question, but yes, I really do think it matters. Both for welfare estimation and for the discipline.
So if that's all the questions, we move very slightly next door, where there'll be beverages and Jay will get them more nonlinear.